All right, we got why the fine art world is obsessed with this bizarre manga.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. How does a manga for teenage boys, published in the same magazine as Dragon Ball, One Piece, and Naruto, end up on display in the same
Damn.
museum as the Mona Lisa? Well, I can tell
Really?
you this. It wasn't just a fluke. JoJo's Bizarre Adventures had gallery exhibits in Paris, museum displays in London, collaborations with Gucci, and even in Japan it was only the second manga ever to be featured.
Bro, how in God's name did JoJo's Bizarre Adventure reach this level of artistic respect? This is crazy to me. Like, yeah, it's like really stylized and whatnot, and it's like pretty cool looking, but I mean, I don't know. Art is like super subjective, so this is just really weird to me.
In the country's largest art museum. But if you know JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, this doesn't really fit with its reputation. This is the
Yeah.
manga from all the memes. The manga with the farting dog and the rock, paper, scissors fight. I wanted to find out why, out of all the comics produced across the globe, this insane manga is one of the few embraced by the worlds of high art and high fashion.
Well, I was in
Really?
luck because while most manga artists don't give many interviews,
Not only has JoJo's creator Hirohiko Araki given dozens of interviews,
he recently wrote a book, and well, let me just read you a passage from it.
writing this book feels akin to a worker divulging his company's trade secrets, or a magician revealing his illusions, or a chef giving away a secret family recipe.
Oh
See, I
shit.
had read JoJo before, but reading this book and learning more about Araki's personal story has given me an entirely different perspective on it, and I think I can now understand why the worlds of high art and high fashion chose to embrace him.
But to understand this, we have to go back, because it wasn't just manga readers who misunderstood Hirohiko Araki. To quote Araki himself, "I wonder if I'm somehow cursed to be forever misunderstood by others."
Uh, I don't know. I think most people feel like that, to be honest.
It's the 1960s in Sendai.
And the thing that causes it is I think people will have like their own specific hobbies that they like to engage in. And usually, people got to go to work. People have like, the layers, the circles of like, what do you call it? Your community. You have yourself is in the center, and then your household is the next layer, and like your neighbors, so like in your community around you, your neighborhood, that's like the next layer. Then you got like your work acquaintances, that's the next layer. And then you have like, I don't know, maybe like your town, your county, then your state, your country, and so on and so forth. But you got all these like layers of circles. And I would say a lot of the time, whenever people are messing around with hobbies, like people like to hang around other people that have similar hobbies as them. And if you choose to like engage in a hobby that maybe not a lot of other people just, I don't know, do, then it's going to feel like oh, nobody understands me, unless you like go on the internet, and then most of the time you could just find like some random ass echo chamber of like other people that like the same shit you do, which is fine.
Small city in northern Japan known as the City of Trees. Young Hirohiko Araki is the victim of twin younger sisters who always gang up on him, who get him blamed for everything, and he begins to feel like an outcast even in his own home. This curse follows him to school, where he always gets blamed for things he didn't do. He becomes the shy kid in the corner, the one who watches as the other kids play.
Bro, I was the shy kid. All right, I was the same way. I wore the same thing if I could, and if it was my choice every day. I never really bullied people. I was always the one getting bullied. I was the one fucking up about something. I couldn't color. I was like I kind of had fun doing like Legos and puzzles and shit. But even then, there were kids that were like better than me at doing that. I wasn't like super athletic or anything like that. This is like a normal childhood experience.
This ostracization leads him to feel further misunderstood by his classmates.
And also, you don't really remember shit when you're a kid.
But there's one thing that keeps him going: Manga. As his sisters monopolize the TV downstairs, young Araki disappears into the safety of his room to read manga. Manga, and later movies, help Araki to get through his difficult childhood, but as he grows older, he begins to worry about his future. How will he find a job when it's so hard for him to just fit in with other people? And then,
Bro, when I was a kid, that was the last thing I was thinking of. Even so, I'll give you this. Like maybe the culture is different over there in his country, but bro, when I was a little kid, I wasn't thinking jack shit about a job.
one day, a classmate brings something into school that will change his life. The very first issue of a new manga magazine, Shonen Jump. In it is
Nice.
a manga by the legendary Iki Kajiwara, which tells the story of an aspiring manga artist.
And he realizes in this moment, this could be the path for him.
A solitary profession, but one that allows him to express himself the way he can't around other people. But this is the late 60s, and working in manga is not a respectable career, so he doesn't even tell his parents of his ambition. But he does draw. From a young age, he starts making his own manga. He takes local art classes and studies by redrawing his favorite series. Babel 2, Kamui Den, and the works of Iki Kajiwara become his textbooks. Now, Shonen Jump is always on the lookout for new talent, and they regularly run contests for readers to submit their own work. Araki submits his manga time and time again, but his work never gets noticed. He's stuck. He lives too far
Oh, what age was he right there? What was that?
takes local art classes and studies by redrawing his favorite series.
Bro, I had a little stint when I was younger. For me, I always liked to draw like Dragon Ball Z characters. I thought that was the coolest shit. I would just look at some image that I would print off and then just like kind of, just like copy it more or less. I didn't trace it. I would just like look at it and like, okay, it's kind of like that, it's kind of like this, and oh, okay, mine looks pretty similar to that one. And yeah, that's actually pretty cool. Like I had a little stint of like trying to learn how to draw.
Babel 2, Kamui Den, and the works of Iki Kajiwara become his textbooks. Now, Shonen Jump is always on the lookout for new talent, and they regularly run contests for readers to submit their own work. Araki submits his manga time and time again, but his work never gets.
So, what age does he look like right here? Is this like early teens, like 16, 17, maybe 15 or something? I mean,
Noticed. He's stuck. He lives too far from Tokyo to get a job as an assistant to a manga artist, and he doesn't know what to do. And then, inspiration strikes from an unexpected place, but one that in retrospect makes sense. He discovers the world of fine art, specifically the French painter Paul Gauguin. Rocky
that is pretty cool. That you as a manga, I don't know, manga creator. Well, he didn't really create any mangas. He's just like had an affinity for drawing like manga style art, and then all of a sudden, you just fall upon like this completely different style of old world artists and stuff like that, and it's just like it's easy to get captivated because I had a couple art classes when I was in like middle and high school, and I saw some of this art and I was like, oh wow, they were doing this shit back then. That's actually pretty good.
He falls in love with Gauguin's work and receives a great shock when he learns about Gauguin's life. Gauguin had left France and moved to Tahiti with the singular focus of improving his paintings. Araki is so moved by Gauguin's dedication to his craft that he decides he will pursue becoming a full-time manga artist with the same single-minded focus. He redoubles his effort practicing drawing, and he keeps submitting to Shonen Jump, and then one day, his submission is selected for an honorable mention. His name
Honorable mention. That's actually pretty cool though.
is printed in tiny letters in the corner of one page, but he would later describe this as the happiest day of my life.
Nice.
Soon, Araki's in for another shock, because he opens Shonen Jump to find that the writer-artist team Yuta Tamago have just made their professional debut, and there's
Also, I think this is cool how he got like discovered. Like, I don't know how, like, what he figured out to like, just keep sending in your images or whatever. Like, maybe they had like a little contest of like, hey, submit an image, and then maybe we'll feature it in like one of our magazines or something. Like, up and coming starter or something like that. This was possible back in the day because the internet simply just wasn't as much of a thing as it is today. Nowadays, if you're an artist, no established, I don't know, comic place or publisher or anything like that is looking to just feature a random ass artist, to my knowledge. It just simply doesn't exist. If you like, You could go on some, what's that one website? Oh fuck. Deviant Art or whatever. You could find a ton of artists, just random freelance artists, just making shit and putting it up on their profile, and that's just, like their online profile. It's like, okay, I'm this good. I do all this type of things and so on and so forth. So everybody all of a sudden just becomes their own best advocate, which is good. But I think, as long as like no businesses are like actively going out and like looking for like new artists unless there's like a new project or something. um I don't know, it's just like weird. Like when like this little piece is I don't know, it's just weird nowadays, like with art.
They're 16 years old, the same age as Araki. While his honorable mention may have been nice, Araki is falling behind. Despite his honorable mention, the editors at Shonen Jump had criticized him for his lack of artistic ability. So, after high school, he enrolls in a design school in his hometown. While in college, he hones his skills. He continues to submit work after work to Shonen Jump.
Weekly Jump. Yeah, it's like back then, I would imagine that the people that were submitting their stuff in like on a weekly basis just to get like mentioned were probably not that many. I mean, I don't exactly know, but it just seems like now it's like it's so saturated with so many people. It's nice that people can like hone their craft of just drawing or doing art or whatever. But what that does is that effectively makes it so there is so much competition. How do you get recognized? The standard, the gold standard, just constantly goes up and up and up. And yeah, competition is great for the consumer, but for the guy that's maybe he's trying to get a job. I mean, look at the damn photo. The photo's black and white. This dude's trying to get a job as like an artist or something. It's like he's trying to like highlight his skills as an artist back in the day when probably it was easier. And then you want to compare that to today. It's like if you want to go find like an artist, it's like you could look like under a goddamn rug and there's like 5 artists right there. And then they're all like awesome at drawing and whatnot.
And while during this period he gets more honorable mentions, once again he's stuck and not getting the detailed feedback he needs from the editors to grow.
But it's in this difficult period that a trait that makes Araki so special begins to emerge, one that we'll see time and time again. Araki is incredibly analytical.
And so he begins to study. He scrutinizes the first pages of popular manga. He realizes that the best first pages convey a lot of information, equivalent to the first few pages of a novel. He also notices that each of them do something unique, something that helps them stand out from the crowd. Armed with the results of his study, he prepares his next work. He chooses to make a western because there are very few westerns in manga, and instead of making his hero look cool, he opens with him falling backwards out of a chair. He creates a setting and a mystery by opening with this man drinking wine against a western backdrop. He cuts and refines so that every page serves a purpose, that every single panel helps fulfill what will become his lifelong mantra: make them turn the page. He titles his work Poker Under Arms.
And he won't settle for another honorable mention with a one-sentence review. He wants direct feedback.
So he tucks the manuscript under his arm and takes the train to Tokyo 5 hours away and goes directly to Shonen Jump's headquarters. He eventually gets a meeting with an editor and lays the manuscript on his desk. Before even turning the first page, the editor points at the opening panel, the one Araki had spent so much time and thought on. Even a grade schooler would have erased that.
Dang. All right. I mean, he's getting what he wanted.
You see, Araki had no idea you were supposed to white out the lines that extended beyond the panel borders. In fact, he didn't even know about whiteout. The editor keeps turning the pages, furious, with scathing critiques on every one, saying,
But, I mean, he said scathing critiques. These are the things that will make him a better artist. He's going to tear apart everything and say why this is bad, why that's bad, so on and so forth. This is what you need. Criticism doesn't have to, be like wholly negative. Like it's like how you deliver criticism. It can just be like straightforward. Hey, instead of doing this, do this, erase that. Maybe like I see all these panels, like how are you like reading all this? Like maybe break this up into like the next page, so on and so forth.
Things like this part is no good, or criticizing the inconsistencies and flaws in his drawings.
Suffice to say, Araki doesn't win any awards that day. While most people might feel dejected after this, Araki doesn't. He's finally gotten feedback on his work.
So
Yeah,
when he gets home from Tokyo, he sets out to redraw the
because in his mind, that was exactly the criticism he needed, because he realized that was it wasn't a speed bump. Like most people would view that event, like that, I don't know, hour or so, that event as like a negative, like, oh my god, I'm gonna cry, and oh, that was so bad. But no, he viewed that as a like a speed up point, like a golden arrow, a golden mushroom to like just hit the go button. It's like, oh, this is what I gotta fix. Okay, now I know what I gotta fix. Now we're on to the next story. That's how you view criticism.
entire book, because of course he still doesn't know about whiteout, so he's just redrawing every page until it's perfect. To finish
Damn.
the 30-page Poker Under Arms, he draws over 100 pages. It takes him
Damn, he didn't know about whiteout. Oh my god. So he literally just grinded the fuck out of drawing because he didn't know about whiteout.
months of working nights and weekends to finish it, but finally his new version is ready. He resubmits this new version to Shonen Jump, and they accept it. Poker Underarms runs as a one-shot in Shonen Jump in 1981. Finally, at 20 years old, Hirohiko Araki had made his manga debut.
But having a one-shot manga published is still a long way away from his real goal, becoming a full-time manga artist.
Going full-time means getting a work serialized, but the standards for serials are even higher than for one-shot.
He literally just brute forced the full-time manga life. He just brute forced it. That's badass.
Despite his success with Poker Under Arms, Araki
And you could see like in his work, like he wasn't like a talented person in the beginning. He just like kind of liked it, and he's like, oh, this is kind of cool, and just keep on drawing. I have no fucking idea what whiteout is, and oh, I messed up. Oh my god, just redraw, just keep redrawing and drawing and drawing, and before you know, he probably had close to damn near 10,000 hours of just drawing skills. If not 10,000, like damn close to it. And at the age of 20.
still has a lot of work ahead of him.
Look, if you haven't figured it out by now,
One of my goals with this channel is to inspire you to pursue your dreams, whether that's in comics or in whatever else you hope to achieve.
and that's the reason I've once again partnered with Shopify to help you guys turn your art, your ideas, your dreams into businesses.
Whether it's selling a
Nice.
product you created or opening an online comic shop, Shopify is the commerce platform for you.
And I'd like to help you guys out. So I'm going to pin a comment down below,
And if you have a Shopify store, please reply to that comment with a link and a description of what you do, so I and hopefully everyone else watching this video
What
can
was
check it
that?
out. And if you
Like
don't
the
already
old
have a
dude, like-
Shopify store, consider starting one, because Shopify makes it ridiculously easy to start your own store. With their drag and drop store editor, you can put together a custom store that fits your vision incredibly quickly and get back to making your product and building your business. And if you already have a social media following, even better, because Shopify has easy integrations that allow you to sell across all major social media platforms. Finally, I think a lot of people don't realize that Shopify doesn't just stop with your online store. If you want to sell your art at comic conventions,
Nice.
or even open your own brick and mortar comic shop someday, Shopify Point of Sale has you covered. So what are you waiting for? Go to shopify.com/Matt with 4Ts. That's shopify.com/MATTTT to start your store today.
Cool.
To continue his single-minded pursuit of manga, instead of getting a job after college, he moves back in with his parents. He works around the clock on his manga and regularly takes the 5-hour
Back to the parents' house. When you're at the parents' house, that is the time to grind. 100%. It's not time to relax. It's not time to chill out. Yes, you are afforded some amenities. You don't have to worry about certain things of, living paycheck to paycheck. Maybe you still have to have a job while you're at your parents, so you can provide some form of income additionally to the household, which you probably should do. But, not having to worry about rent or, well, just that alone, not having to worry about rent, that's like huge. Because that's a huge chunk of your paycheck that you can just use for something else.
train ride to Tokyo to get feedback directly from the Shonen Jump editors. But the editors are still just brutal. Sometimes they would take his manuscript out, look at the first page, say, I don't want to read this, and hand it back to him.
Oh, shit. Okay. Again, He's getting that direct feedback. And bro, sitting on a train for 5 hours, bro, that you got to do some soul searching. Like fuck, I traveled 5 hours there. They said I don't want to read this, just for you to go like 5 hours back. You gotta fucking, something in your head has to click when you're wasting 10 hours of just travel time, bro. That's over like that's close to half a day. That's like a regular day shift for a job of just sitting on a train. Jesus, I don't want to read this. Ain't no better feedback than that. It's like, well, fuck, I gotta get a better front page then.
He would sleep on the train ride home and go right back to work as soon as he arrived. He does get a few more one-shots published, but he can't make a living off one-shots. He has to crack the code of serialization if he wants to continue.
Again, without the means to move to Tokyo and become an assistant, he turns to self-study.
The problem with his work, he realizes, is the genres that he's chosen to work in. Araki loves mysteries, thrillers, and horror movies. He prefers Carrie to Star Wars. But the problems with these works is that they don't have the potential to go beyond their original plot. He realizes that the best serialized works are dependent not on plot, but on characters. In fact, some of his favorite manga series have no plot at all, so Araki needs to figure out how to create compelling characters. And once again, he finds his answer in a surprising place. This time, it's Hollywood. As I've mentioned,
Really?
Araki's a lover of movies. He says his main guidebook to creating manga is Hitchcock Truffaut, and it's by reading about filmmaking that he makes his next big breakthrough.
Okay. He's calling upon another industry. You know, you could tell a story in a single panel of like old style art. Yes, but you can also tell a story with a conventional, just a movie, and see what the movies do well. That's smart.
Araki learns that some Hollywood actors, in preparing for their roles, would create extensive histories for their characters, things that don't make it onto the screen but inform their performances. Based on that technique, Araki develops this sheet, which he fills out for every character he creates.
Oh, wow. Name, age, sex, birthday, birth sign, blood type, birthplace, height, weight, eye hair color, eyelashes, color blindness, handness, type of voice, history of surgeries, cavities, illnesses. Bro, holy shit. There is so much here. Scars, burns, skin damage, birthmarks, tattoos, because all of these little things, you know, once you get past your like biological stuff, like a person that's like 5 foot and a person that is 6 foot are gonna have two different, you know, experiences in life, just objectively. You know, one person is short. They, you know, you could already tell like, oh, I got like a stool, I gotta like get up and reach this thing. A person that's tall is gonna be like, oh, I can't fucking bend down, I can't get down. So immediately, just even with the biological shit, other physical characteristics, I mean, all of this stuff, this is so cool. It's like, this is like an all-encompassing D&D character creator sheet. Criminal records, awards, education, sexual history, lovers, thoughts about love and marriage, people that the subject admires or hates, dreams for the future, their fears. What else do we got? Personality traits, favorite sayings, habits, relationships, inclinations, behavior, family relationships, problem relationships, employment, school, and now this dude has a damn near like resume style thing. Status, behavior, pets, plants, personality traits, special skills, hobbies, recreation, like, dislike, food, clothing, shelter. Damn.
In typical Araki fashion, it's both brilliant and insane. It's got 60 items on there, ranging from formative experiences as a child to pets to blood type. He uses this approach to come up with an original character, BT, a bad boy with the genius of Sherlock Holmes. Shonen Jump doesn't like how different BT is from their usual heroes, but Araki believes in the concept, and after 2 years of persistence in reworking it, he finally finds an assistant editor who will give him a shot, who agrees to publish Cool Shock BT as a serial. and so it runs in Shonen Jump, and right away it's not embraced by readers.
Son of a bitch.
Shonen Jump depends on reader surveys, and the readers were clear that they do not like it. It's quickly canceled. But that wasn't the end, because after the cancellation, when the final chapter is finally published, it gets a great response.
The manga may be over, but Araki and his editor could study that final chapter and unpack what had worked about it.
It turns out that in that chapter, Araki had introduced a compelling antagonist, and so compelling antagonists become the next ingredient in his formula.
BT may be dead, but Araki had succeeded in becoming a serial manga author, even if it only lasted 10 weeks. But armed with this new knowledge, he gets right back to work on his next pitch.
Dang.
See, cool.
Every failure is just like a speed up arrow for him to like go back to the drawing board, rethink about everything, and try to make it right. That's crazy, man. And it's like he's so close too. Like he got like the initial job, like the one editor picking up his stuff, and he got to do it for like 10 weeks. It's like, oh, you suck. And then, okay, shit, back to the drawing board. So he's like so close, which is crazy. This amount of failure you don't see as a regular person. The only thing you see from the perspective of consuming entertainment, you don't see all the failures that person had to go through to create that story to get where they were. There is just within like this first like about 10 minutes, this dude has already gone through years of failure after failure after failure, getting criticized, more criticism. This isn't right. That's not right. You will always be a failure until one day you're not.
Shock BT has had another significant effect on Araki's life. He's made enough money to finally move to Tokyo, bring him one step closer to his dream of being a full-time manga artist. The next year he gets another manga serialized, Bao the Visitor, but it too only lasts a handful of months before getting cancelled. He blames that on his failure to create a believable setting, but he knows there's something else holding him back. His art is still lacking compared to...
Dang. So first, it was the not the protagonist, it was the antagonist. Now it's the setting, and kind of his like art is kind of lacking
to his storytelling. He's frustrated because he's studied his craft relentlessly for years. He's built up his technical skills, but artists with much less technical abilities are finding success in manga. What's going on?
Bro, this guy is seething right now. I would be if that was me. Like, oh, my technical skills, my mechanics are so fucking good. You know, I've studied. I have this gigantic sheet on how to make like a protagonist. Maybe I could just do that again to make an antagonist. Now I have to make like a believable setting, and now he's just... all of these things are tools that he is honing. He literally has like the sharpest tools in the shed. He just has to make something. That's the story.
He returns once more to his diligent study of popular manga and makes another important discovery. All the hit series have personal, recognizable styles. The kind of manga you could see from across a train and know immediately who drew it. But being good isn't enough. Araki needs to develop his own recognizable style. He had learned to draw manga by studying manga, but now he needs to broaden his influences. Well, thankfully, now that he's living in Tokyo, he can begin immersing himself in all sorts of new things. Here were books on sale by painters and designers I had never seen before. I really admired the painters Frank Frazetta, Enki Bilal, and Antonio Lopez.
Dang. That's some manly ass shit. That's the high cheekbones. That's a manly ass jawline. And this is just like the lone wolf badass with the splash of red. Leather jacket. Yes, I can 100% see why all of these things influenced JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
I was surprised by the beauty and fashion sense of designer stores like Missoni and Versace.
Oh, wait, what? Let me get in there.
I was surprised by the beauty and fashion sense of designer stores like Missoni and...
Dang. There it is, man. The beginning of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. All of the wonky fashion styles right here.
Versace. I also watched MTV shows late at night, and I got to see performances of Madonna and African American rap music for the first time.
Dang, with all the chains and the jewelries and the big jackets.
Araki takes these influences into his work, but he's still falling short of creating a recognizable style. To take a break from it all, he decides to use the money he had made on Bao the Visitor to go abroad for the first time. His travels take him to Italy, and in Rome he decides to visit the Galleria Borghese. And it is here where he discovers the work that will change his life.
Oh,
Lorenzo
shit.
Bernini's Apollo and Daphne. The sculpture twists and curves, the bodies are bent to the limit to express a sensuous pose. Araki is struck and studies it from every angle. Araki would become obsessed with the posing and gesture of classical sculpture.
Dang. That's actually pretty cool.
And this idea, the elaborate, evocative, memorable posing of bodies, is the key that finally unlocks his signature style. And now he would combine everything: his drawing fundamentals, his study of popular manga, his love of MTV, fine art, high fashion, and Western comics to create a work that anyone could recognize from across the train. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
There it is.
Shonen Jump begins serializing JoJo's Bizarre Adventure in 1986. Here is another shot at
So, me personally, I never read any of the mangas. When I first saw JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I started seeing like random ass memes on the internet, and I was like, oh, it's that one manga that I've never seen before. And then all of a sudden, like Netflix picked it up, and then I started watching it, and I was like, oh, this is where all the memes are coming from. Oh.
Araki's dream of becoming a full-time serialized manga artist. Inspired by John Steinbeck's East of Eden, he envisions it as a multi-generational epic in which each part would have a different protagonist. But right away, there's a problem. Despite his new, grabbing art style, his unique setting, his chilling antagonist, and everything else he had learned, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is still getting poor survey results. Once again, he might not make it off the starting line.
So, the analytical Araki confronts his own shortcomings and studies the work of others to figure it out before it's too late. And once again, his analysis will lead him to create one of his golden rules of manga.
He realizes that in shonen manga, the protagonist must always be rising, always improving his situation. But he had spent the first few chapters of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure really beating up his protagonist, and he was leaving his readers feeling
Huh. I mean, the whole always rising thing kinda is true. Like getting better and better. And when I was a little kid, that's one of the main reasons I really liked Dragon Ball Z. All right, but like if you contrast that to like another style, let's say like any movie Jackie Chan has made, the main, Jackie Chan is always the main character, and anytime there is a fight scene, he is always getting beat up. All right, it'll be like some weird ass percent of like, oh, some bad guy's got like some hits on him, and then he's, or he like punches too hard and he does that thing. And so you could say that certain things can work in a manga, whereas other things can work in a movie. I mean, it said, was it like earlier in there that like, I don't think it's entirely bad that like your main character is always getting beat up, but there has to be a point where the main character fucking wises up and stops taking bullshit. All right? That's why a lot of Jackie Chan movies are so successful. Yes, Jackie Chan does get beat up. He does do a lot of crazy stunts, but he always prevails at the end.
Depressed after each chapter. Well, just as he had mastered every other aspect of manga, so too does he master story structure and keeps JoJo's alive. And so, when he starts on JoJo's Part 3, he bases the story structure on one of his own passions: travel. Inspired by board games and the movie Around the World in 80 Days, he sets his heroes off on a globe-trotting adventure. And it's in this period where I think that JoJo's really begins to become truly magnificent. Some people say Part 3 is where it gets good because that's where he introduces Stans, the iconic fighting power, but for me it's because Araki's confidence finally begins to shine through as you watch him becoming more and more himself with every chapter. To me, this is the magic trick at the heart of JoJo's. Araki had spent so many years studying and perfecting every element of his craft that he could have easily become a cold technician, producing technically perfect comics that are lifeless. But his mastery of craft is so high that it allows him to open up, allows him to pour his personality onto every page. Through his work, you get to know this passionate weirdo with his love of travel, board games, horror movies, and prog rock. He's described
Hmm.
JoJo as like a diary to him, and that totally fits.
Nice.
By part 4, there's a page explaining how this guy's guitar works, with the heading, "This isn't relevant to the story."
But Araki wants to draw a guitar and tell you how it works, and I'm here for it.
When
Yeah.
people look at JoJo, it's easy to see the weirdness and miss all the craft hiding just under the surface. But it
I think that's really cool that there's like inside the manga, there's just a random ass thing that tells you how guitars work. All right. Maybe you thought about playing an electric guitar, but you're like, it's so complicated. It's all this technology, it's so on and so forth. And he's just going to go in there and just be like, hey, guys, this is how it works. You know, maybe you were thinking about it and you just need a little push over the edge. Hey, go try it out, maybe. Go to Walmart, go pick up a cheapo guitar, and maybe just start playing. Start learning how to play.
I dare you to find one other piece of media that is this downright odd and can also make you cry.
Now, before we move on, I should mention that, unlike when I read it, Viz has published these beautiful hardcover editions that restore Araki's Gogan-inspired color pages, and I'll put a reading guide and links for everything down below.
But something was still wrong. Even though Araki had achieved his childhood dream of becoming a serialized manga artist, he hadn't scratched that deeper itch, the one that drove him to want to be a manga artist in the first place. In a 2002 interview, 14 years into JoJo's bizarre adventure, he
Dang.
would say, "I often feel like I'm not 100% understood when it comes to manga." Sadly, despite his success, Araki still felt misunderstood by the world around him. Let's take a quick detour.
So 14 years into JoJo's bizarre adventure. So that is past the point of burnout. So once you get it's about, it's about 5 to 7 years. Once you get past that, you're pretty accepting of the job that you chose, and regardless of whether or not you still like it or whatever, it's like, okay, you know the ins and outs of it, so you're just okay, let's keep going. So he has gotten past that point, and he still doesn't feel like nobody gets me. So I think it'd be a good time to go back and rethink about why do you want people to get you as a full-time manga artist?
In his book, Araki says something that I found very profound. He says that manga is closer to painting or sculpture than it is to anime or movies.
Maybe that sounds obvious, but the way Araki says it helped me understand it better.
The composition, the color tone, the characters' expressions, the line work, everything that comes together to form a picture can create an impact in a still image that moving images just can't match. What's wonderful about still drawings is their ability to create what I think of as eternal moments, what would otherwise be fleeting moments captured within particles of pigment. He goes on to write about how he could stare at the Mona Lisa for hours. I think this is what Araki is trying to do on every page, to etch some part of himself down in permanent form. But it seems to me that he doesn't feel that the average manga reader appreciates all of this work. And
No.
yeah,
Probably not. That is true. When you're making something like an art piece or something like that, or a long-standing comic, the intention behind every line, every color, every shade, every pose. The ins and outs of your story and your characters and what they're doing. There's no possible way you're going to get a random person to appreciate the art at your level. That's why what exists is there's it's not a saying, it's like a phrase, know your audience. And no, well, it was how'd it go? It was god dang it. It's so you take a musician, and let's say they're really great a musician, all right? That musician can go and make a 10-minute solo, and it'll be super technical, super high skill, and he'll show it off to the world look what I can do. This is awesome. 99% of people will probably think that solo sounds like absolute dog shit. There will probably be less than 1% of people that actually understands what that solo did and how technically difficult it was to perform that solo. So only a small percentage of people will understand it. But to the 99% of people, they're just like, bro, all you're doing is, going up and down, fucking, it sounds like dog shit. All right. And it kind of feels like he is in that same boat. It feels like he is just on like a tirade of a solo with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And only so few people will understand and truly appreciate what he is doing. And that 99% of people, it will just fall on deaf ears. So, I get it.
Perhaps that's a consequence of having one of your main characters be a dog who likes to fart in people's faces, but still.
In the early 2000s, I believe Araki really wants to change this perception, he just doesn't know how. And then he has a fateful encounter that will change his life.
One day, a little 9-year-old girl told me, "You draw so well. I realized that even those who don't read my manga can appreciate my art." And so, Araki makes a plan. He decides to organize an art show to show his original drawings to the world for the first time. But he's strategic about it. He chooses to do this show in Paris, where his manga isn't very popular, but where fine art is appreciated. He chooses a reputable gallery that has shown Renoir and Chagall, and he purposely doesn't inform his Japanese readers about the show. He doesn't want manga fans to come. He wants the real art crowd, who, like this little girl, have no preconceived notions about him. The show opens in 2003, and it's a huge success. He's embraced by people from all walks of life who are encountering him as he hoped, as an artist first and a manga artist second. On the heels of this success, in 2005, Araki makes another dramatic change. He takes JoJo's out of Shonen Jump, the magazine that had inspired him to become a manga artist in the first place, that had published every one of his major works since he was 20 years old. Why? Because he wants to move to a monthly magazine. Now, unlike a lot of manga artists, Araki has never missed a deadline. He had turned out 19 pages of new art every week with incredible consistency.
But now, perhaps emboldened by the success of his art show, he wants to slow down and spend more time on his art.
And the resulting arc of JoJo's Steel Ball Run would become what many consider his masterpiece. On MyAnimeList.com, Steel Ball Run is the second highest rated manga of all time.
Dang.
And so, in 2009, when the Louvre decides to put on an exhibit celebrating comic artwork, they select 5 artists from around the globe. And by 5 artists from around the globe, I mean 4 from France and Belgium, and 1 from Japan. Hirohiko Araki. That's right, after 30 years of tireless work, from honing his craft by practicing the basics to copying the manga masters, across so many failures and false starts, to finding inspiration in the worlds of fashion and high art, Araki had finally arrived. Many successful exhibitions and collaborations have followed in the years since, but I think this marked the turning point, because this showing in the Louvre, in the same museum as the Mona Lisa, proved to Araki that he was finally understood.
That's badass, dude.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe.
If you want more Araki beyond just reading JoJo's, of course,
I really recommend you pick up his book. It was my primary source for this video, and I'll link it down
below. I'll have to check that out.
I tried to apply his storytelling techniques for this video, so if you found it more engaging than my usual videos, that's also because of Araki.
Huge shout out to JoJoWiki.com. It's one of the best fan sites I've come across in my research, and I'll leave a link for it down below. And finally, big thanks to Ayaku Web, who once again helped me research this video in Japanese sources, so
$70.
This episode.
Bro, that was so cool. I had no idea that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure was like in there. That's badass, dude. Good for him. What'd he say? Like 30 years? Dang. That is dedication, my man. That is so cool. I think I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch fucking JoJo's, man. That's badass. But yeah, that was a cool ass video. And yeah, I'm excited to see more. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I'll catch you guys on the next one. All right, later.